If you have very few friends, or none at all, this might not be a problem. In fact, it could mean something very specific about you, especially if you are an empath. There is a quiet pattern that many people overlook. The ones who feel the deepest, the ones who understand others without words, often stand alone more than anyone else. That sounds strange at first. In a world that praises social circles and constant connection, being alone can seem like a weakness. But beneath the surface, there is a different story unfolding. There are people who walk into a room and instantly sense the tension, the unspoken emotions, the hidden energy that others miss. They pick up on subtle shifts in tone, small changes in behavior, and silent discomfort in others. Science has started to explore this through emotional sensitivity and mirror responses in the brain, yet the full depth of this experience remains largely misunderstood. Because of this, many empaths grow up feeling different. They try to fit in, they try to connect, but something always feels slightly off. Over time, this leads to a powerful shift. In this video, you will discover the real traits that set empaths apart when it comes to friendships and social life. You will learn why they tend to keep their circles small, why they walk away from people without explanation, and why solitude often feels more peaceful than company. There are hidden reasons behind their silence, their distance, and their selectiveness that most people never talk about. Some of these traits are strengths in disguise. Others are lessons learned through quiet pain and experience. As you keep watching, you will begin to see a pattern that connects all of this together. A pattern that explains why having fewer friends can actually be a sign of deeper awareness and emotional intelligence. And there is one trait, often ignored, that changes everything once you understand it. It reveals why many empaths choose a different path in life, even when it sets them apart from the crowd. So if you have ever felt out of place, if you have ever chosen peace over people, or if you have wondered why your circle feels smaller than others, this video will give you answers that you have been searching for. Stay with me until the end, because each trait builds on the next, and the final insight might change the way you see yourself completely. Welcome to our channel, where we explore the hidden truths of human behavior and psychology. Subscribe now and join a community that understands the depth most people overlook. Why do some of the most emotionally aware people end up alone? It seems almost contradictory. These are the individuals who can read a room within seconds, who can sense when someone is hurting even when no words are spoken, who often understand others better than those people understand themselves. They notice the small details, the quiet shifts in tone, the hidden emotions behind a smile. Yet despite this deep awareness, something feels out of sync when it comes to forming lasting connections. There is a subtle distance that keeps appearing, a gap that never fully closes. On the surface, they may seem quiet or reserved. Some people might even assume they are distant or uninterested. But beneath that calm exterior, there is constant processing happening. Every interaction carries weight. Every emotion they pick up adds another layer to their experience. Over time, this can become overwhelming. While others engage casually, empaths often carry the emotional residue of every conversation long after it ends. This creates a quiet tension between their ability to understand others and their capacity to stay connected without feeling drained. There is also a deeper contrast at play. Empaths crave real connection, the kind that feels honest and meaningful. Superficial conversations feel empty to them. Forced interactions feel exhausting. They are drawn to authenticity, yet that level of honesty is rare. Many people are comfortable staying on the surface, avoiding depth, keeping things light and simple. For an empath, that can feel like speaking a completely different language. This disconnect slowly shapes their social world, leading them to step back rather than force something that does not feel right. As this pattern repeats, a quiet shift begins. They start choosing their energy more carefully. They begin to notice which interactions leave them feeling heavy and which ones feel calm. Without making a big announcement, they create distance from situations that do not align with their emotional state. It is not about rejection or isolation in the traditional sense. It is about balance, about protecting something that feels constantly exposed. In this video, you will discover the hidden traits most empaths share. These are the patterns that explain why their social circles look different, why their connections feel selective, and why their presence carries a depth that is often misunderstood. Each trait reveals another layer of this experience, gradually uncovering a perspective that many people overlook but few truly understand. There is something different about the way empaths experience the world. It goes beyond simple observation. They do not just notice emotions, they absorb them. When someone around them feels stressed, heavy, or anxious, that energy does not stay external. It seeps in quietly and becomes something they carry within themselves. A normal conversation can feel intense without any clear reason. A crowded place can feel exhausting even when nothing obvious is happening. This constant flow of emotional input builds up over time, creating a sense of overload that is hard to explain to someone who has never felt it. At first, many empaths do not even realize what is happening. They assume their reactions are normal. They think everyone feels this deeply. Everyone picks up on every shift in mood, every hidden tension. But slowly, a pattern begins to form. After certain interactions, they feel unusually tired. After being around certain people, their mood changes without any personal cause. It becomes clear that the emotions they carry are not always their own. This realization can feel confusing and even overwhelming because it blurs the line between self and others. As this sensitivity continues, it starts to affect their behavior. Situations that others find normal begin to feel heavy. Social gatherings, long conversations, or even small group settings can become draining. It is not about disliking people or avoiding connection. It is about the impact those interactions have on their internal state. They begin to notice how quickly their energy shifts, how easily they feel mentally and emotionally exhausted. Over time, this leads to a quiet change in how they approach social life. Instead of constantly engaging, they start pulling back. They take longer to respond. They limit how often they go out. They choose spaces that feel calm rather than crowded. This is not a sudden decision, but a gradual adjustment. Each experience teaches them something about their limits. Each moment of exhaustion pushes them to protect their peace a little more. It becomes less about fitting in and more about maintaining balance within themselves. From the outside, this can be misunderstood. Some may see it as distance or lack of interest. Others may think it is a personality trait rather than a response to constant emotional input. But the reality is much simpler. It is not that they hate people, they just get drained easily. There is a quiet difference in the way empaths approach conversations. While many people move comfortably through small talk, light topics, and surface-level exchanges, empaths often feel disconnected in those moments. Casual conversations about routine things can feel repetitive and empty. It is not because they are uninterested in people, but because they are naturally drawn to something deeper. They want to understand what someone truly feels, what shapes their thoughts, what lies beneath the words being spoken. This creates a gap between them and the kind of communication that most social settings are built on. When an empath engages in a conversation, they are fully present. They listen closely, picking up on tone, pauses, and emotions that are often left unsaid. This level of attention turns even a simple interaction into something meaningful, but it also raises their expectations. They begin to seek the same depth from others. They look for honesty, vulnerability, and real connection. When those elements are missing, the interaction can feel incomplete, as if something important has been left out. Over time, this makes it harder for them to stay engaged in conversations that remain on the surface. This preference shapes their social circle in a noticeable way. While others may build large networks of casual connections, empaths move in the opposite direction. They become selective, choosing to invest their time and energy in people who offer genuine understanding. It is not about being distant or exclusive. It is about finding a level of connection that feels real. They are willing to spend time alone rather than fill their space with interactions that lack meaning. This decision is often misunderstood by those who measure social success by numbers rather than depth. As they continue to navigate relationships, this pattern becomes stronger. They begin to recognize which conversations leave them feeling fulfilled and which ones leave them drained. This awareness guides their choices without needing clear explanations. They naturally drift toward people who match their depth and step away from those who remain at a distance emotionally. The result is a smaller circle, but one that feels more aligned with who they are. This is why their connections often look different from the outside. It is never about having more people around them. It is about having the right ones. They would rather have one real connection than 10 fake ones. Over time, empaths begin to understand something that is not always obvious at first. Their energy is limited, and the way they use it matters more than they once believed. After repeated experiences of feeling drained, overwhelmed, or emotionally affected by others, a quiet shift starts to happen within them. They begin to recognize patterns in people, in environments, and in conversations that leave them feeling heavy. This awareness does not come from theory or advice, it comes from lived experience, from moments where they gave too much and felt the cost of it afterward. Instead of making dramatic changes, their response is often subtle. They start setting boundaries, but in a way that is almost invisible to others. They may take longer to reply to messages. They may choose to leave conversations early. They may stop engaging with certain people without any clear explanation. There is no confrontation, no long discussion about their feelings. It is a quiet form of self-protection that happens naturally as they learn what affects them the most. This behavior can easily be misunderstood. From the outside, it may look like distance or disinterest. Some people might assume they have changed or become less caring. Others might feel ignored or pushed away without understanding why. The empath, however, is not acting out of negativity or judgment. They are responding to an internal need to stay balanced. Every interaction carries emotional weight for them, and without boundaries, that weight becomes too much to carry. As this pattern continues, their circle becomes more defined. They keep close the people who feel safe, calm, and genuine, and slowly create space from those who bring tension or emotional overload. This process does not require harsh decisions or clear-cut endings. It happens gradually, shaped by how each interaction feels rather than what it looks like on the surface. Their choices are guided by energy rather than expectation. Even though their actions may seem distant, there is a deeper reason behind them. It is not about shutting people out or becoming cold. It is about maintaining a sense of inner stability that is easily disrupted. But in reality, they are just protecting themselves. There is a sharp awareness that empaths carry into every interaction, something that goes beyond words and visible behavior. They tend to notice the small inconsistencies that others overlook, a smile that does not match the tone of voice, a compliment that feels slightly forced, a story that does not fully add up. These details may seem minor on the surface, yet they create a deeper impression that stays with them. While most people process conversations at face value, empaths often sense what is happening underneath. This makes it difficult for them to accept things as they appear without questioning the feeling behind them. Because of this, they become highly sensitive to authenticity. Genuine behavior feels calm and easy to engage with, while anything that carries hidden tension or unclear intent feels uncomfortable. They do not always have clear proof of what they sense, yet the feeling is strong enough to influence their response. This creates a unique challenge. Trust becomes harder to build, not because they want to doubt others, but because their awareness constantly picks up on signals that suggest something is off. Even in situations where everything seems normal on the surface, there can be an underlying discomfort that they cannot ignore. As this awareness develops, it begins to shape the way they approach relationships. They become more cautious, taking time to observe rather than immediately opening up. They listen more than they speak, watching how people act across different situations. Patterns matter to them, and consistency becomes a key factor in how they decide who to trust. When something feels misaligned, even in a small way, it creates distance. This does not come from judgment, but from a need to stay aligned with what feels real. Over time, this naturally leads to a smaller, more controlled circle. They choose quality over presence, connection over appearance. They would rather have a few people they can truly trust than surround themselves with uncertainty. This selectiveness is often misunderstood as being overly guarded, yet it is simply a response to how deeply they process the behavior of others. Their awareness acts almost like an internal signal system that reacts instantly to subtle cues. They do not ignore red flags, they feel them instantly. There is a quiet space that empaths grow to appreciate more than most people realize. Being alone is often misunderstood as something negative, something linked to isolation or disconnection, yet for them it carries a completely different meaning. Time spent alone becomes a place where everything settles. The noise fades, the emotions they have absorbed begin to clear, and their mind slowly returns to its natural state. It is not an escape from people, but a return to themselves. This distinction changes the way they experience solitude, turning it into something necessary rather than something to avoid. In social environments, there is a constant exchange of energy that many people move through without noticing. For an empath, that exchange feels much stronger. Conversations, surroundings, and even silent interactions leave an impression that builds over time. Without space to process and release this buildup, it can become overwhelming. Solitude offers a reset. It allows them to separate their own emotions from what they have taken in from others. In that quiet, they begin to feel lighter, clearer, and more grounded again. As they start to understand this need, their relationship with being alone begins to shift. It no longer feels like something that needs to be filled or avoided. Instead, it becomes something they choose. They begin to notice how different they feel after spending time by themselves compared to being in crowded or emotionally intense environments. This awareness makes their choices more intentional. They may decline invitations, limit social interactions, or step away from situations that feel draining, not because they dislike connection, but because they value how they feel afterward. From the outside, this preference can easily be misinterpreted. Some may assume they are isolating themselves or missing out on experiences. Others may see it as a sign of disinterest in social life, but for an empath, the experience is entirely different. Being alone does not carry a sense of emptiness, it carries a sense of balance. It allows them to reconnect with their thoughts, their emotions, and their sense of calm without outside influence. This creates an emotional shift that guides their decisions in a subtle but powerful way. Their peace matters more than fitting in. There is a natural tendency in empaths to give more than they receive. It often begins without any hesitation or calculation. When they care about someone, they show it fully. They listen deeply, support without being asked, and invest their time and energy in ways that feel genuine to them. Helping others feels natural, almost automatic. They do not keep track of what they give or expect anything in return at the beginning. For them, connection is built through sincerity, through showing up in moments that matter, through offering understanding when it is needed the most. As time passes, this pattern starts to reveal a different side. Not everyone responds with the same level of care. Some people accept the support without recognizing its depth. Others begin to rely on it without giving anything back. This imbalance slowly creates emotional strain. The empath may feel unappreciated, overlooked, or quietly drained, yet they continue to give because it feels wrong to pull back. There is a hope that things will become equal, that the same effort will be returned, that the connection will deepen in a meaningful way. Eventually, repeated experiences begin to shift that perspective. Moments of disappointment become more frequent. Being there for someone who disappears when it matters, offering support that is never acknowledged, or feeling valued only when needed creates a pattern that becomes difficult to ignore. These experiences leave a mark. They bring a deeper awareness of how easily their kindness can be taken for granted when it is given without limits. This is where change begins, slowly and quietly. The empath does not suddenly stop caring or become distant. Instead, they begin to observe more before giving. They start to notice how others show up, how consistent they are, and whether the connection feels balanced. Their giving becomes more intentional. They still care deeply, but they no longer offer everything at once. There is a pause where there once was immediate openness. This shift is not about becoming guarded in a negative way. It is about understanding the value of their own energy and choosing where it goes. Their circle becomes smaller, their trust more earned, and their presence more selective. They didn't start this way, life taught them. As these patterns start to come together, a deeper layer begins to reveal itself. Each trait connects with the next in a way that slowly builds a clearer picture. The sensitivity, the selectiveness, the quiet boundaries, and the shift in how energy is managed all point towards something that goes beyond simple personality. There is a structure behind it, a way of experiencing the world that shapes every interaction without needing to be explained out loud. It becomes easier to see why certain choices are made, why certain situations are avoided, and why connection looks different from the outside. At the same time, there is still something missing from the surface of this understanding. A piece that often goes unnoticed, even by those who relate to everything so far. It is not as obvious as feeling deeply or preferring solitude. It is more subtle, something that develops over time and quietly influences how an empath moves through life. This trait is rarely talked about because it does not show itself immediately. It sits beneath the habits, beneath the visible patterns, shaping decisions in ways that are easy to overlook. As you follow along, you may start to recognize parts of yourself in what has already been shared. The moments of stepping back, the need for space, the way certain interactions leave a lasting impact. These are not random experiences. They connect to a deeper process that continues to evolve. With each experience, there is a shift happening, a refinement in how energy is understood and managed. This is where things begin to take a more defined shape, where the surface-level explanations are no longer enough. There is a reason why some empaths seem to grow quieter over time, yet stronger in ways that are difficult to measure. There is a reason why their presence changes, even when their actions remain subtle. It all ties back to something that is often overlooked, something that does not fit into simple labels or quick explanations. And one trait most people never talk about is coming next. As all these patterns begin to connect, a clearer understanding starts to take shape. The sensitivity to emotions, the need for space, the quiet boundaries, the selectiveness in relationships, all of it forms a consistent way of experiencing the world. It is not random, and it is not accidental. Each trait builds on the other, creating a lifestyle that looks different from what most people expect. While others measure connection by numbers and constant interaction, empaths tend to move in a more intentional way, guided by how each experience feels rather than how it appears. This is where a deeper realization begins to surface. The idea of having fewer friends, which is often seen as something negative, starts to take on a different meaning. It no longer feels like something that needs to be fixed or questioned. Instead, it reflects the way an empath processes connection. When every interaction carries emotional weight, when every environment leaves an impression, it becomes natural to choose carefully. This is not about avoiding people, but about maintaining a sense of balance that allows them to function without feeling overwhelmed. There is also a level of awareness involved that grows over time. Through experience, empaths begin to understand what aligns with them and what does not. They learn to recognize the difference between genuine connection and something that only appears real on the surface. This awareness shapes their decisions in quiet but powerful ways. It influences who they spend time with, how they respond to situations, and when they choose to step back. It is a process that develops gradually, shaped by both positive and difficult experiences. As this awareness deepens, their approach to relationships becomes more refined. They are no longer driven by the need to fit into social expectations or maintain connections that do not feel right. Instead, they move toward what feels authentic and sustainable. This creates a smaller circle, but one that reflects a deeper level of understanding and alignment. Having few friends is not a weakness for an empath. It is often a sign of emotional awareness and growth. So if you have ever felt alone, sitting in silence, while the world around you seems loud and full, there is a chance you were never truly alone in the way you thought. There is a deeper reason behind that distance, a quiet process happening within you that most people never take the time to understand. Maybe you were simply protecting your energy, learning in your own way how to exist without losing yourself in the noise of others. That feeling of stepping back, of choosing peace over constant connection, carries more meaning than it appears on the surface. There is strength in that space, even if it does not always feel like it. Not everyone is meant to walk with you, and that is your strength. Some connections are temporary, some are surface level, and some are never meant to reach the depth you naturally seek. That does not make you difficult to understand. It means you are selective in a world that often settles for less. It means you are aware of what feels real and what does not, even when it sets you apart. As everything comes together, it becomes clearer that this path is not about isolation. It is about alignment. It is about knowing who deserves your time, your presence, and your energy. Because the rarest people are often the most selective, and that selectiveness is not a flaw. It is a reflection of everything you have learned along the way. Do you relate to these traits? Let me know in the comments. And if this spoke to you, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more content like this.